If I go flying, I would actually order vegetarian food for two reasons. One is they will serve you first.
Correct.
Hi, my name is Kwek Yi Sing. I am from the Singapore Baha'i community.
Hi, I'm Rajesh Arsha and I represent the Jain faith.
Hi, I'm Sengutavan from the Hindu faith of the Interreligious Organization. Nice to see you, Raj. Nice to see you, Kwek.
Yep.
To kickstart our appetite, I'm going to talk about food. How about that?
Typical Singaporean.
Yeah.
That's right. So let's start by asking ourselves, what are some of the customs or practices that involve food?
As you know, the basic tenets of Jainism is ahimsa, which is non-violence. The easiest way to have non-violence in action is to be vegetarian. So you don't harm another living soul, because we believe that there's a soul in every living thing. The concept is very simple. We are guests on the planet, and we should live like guests. We should consume as little as possible, and whatever, even in order to survive, we need to consume, needs to be at the lowest level, 1 sensory, 2 sensory at max. So, and that's one of the reasons why, if you would ask a Jain, hey, you're vegetarian, but I hear you don't eat underground roots. And that's what we do. We don't eat underground roots, right? I mean, there are exceptions to underground roots, like, we eat ginger, but it is dried. So when there's no water in it, for medicinal purposes, for spices purposes, turmeric, dried, it's okay. In India, from where most Jains come from, Gujarat, Rajasthan, they are generally a vegetarian community.
Right.
So it's a lot easier for them to do it over there and be strict about it. I'm a Singaporean, born here, raised here. My parents came from India. They brought the traditions with them, the dietary restrictions with them, and we had to deal with all of these in the schools. Sometimes we had to go hungry. Army, we were eating rice and tomato ketchup and cucumber sometimes because we can't get vegetarian food. Things are very different now. So in the local context, of course, there's a lot more choices because we have a multi-religious, multi-racial, multicultural Singapore.
Yeah, I gather that it's basically driven towards a meat-free regime, right, Jains? What about,
100%.
Kwek, what about in Baha'i?
We don't spend that much time thinking about what not to eat. That's the only thing that I can tell.
Singapore will suit you for sure.
Sure. You know that the Baha'i faith is quite a new faith. It's only about 179 years old. The principles are very universal. I guess food-wise, there is not much restriction because the faith covers people from all over the world, from the North Pole to the South Pole, so to the desert people. So we can't say that, you have to be vegetarians because vegetables are not available in those cold parts of the earth. There is something that in the writing that in the future, man will not eat meat. There will be a time when the food of the future is just grains and seeds
Right.
and fruits.
Is it part of and parcel of an evolution process? Evolving towards...
Evolving because it is expected that man will become more passionate.
Compassionate.
And then, compassionate. Yeah. All this food transportation will allow all kinds of, vegetables to be transported to everywhere, in other words. Yeah.
The Hindu faith itself, yes, a lot of Jain beliefs are also being basically centered towards a vegetarian regime. But it allows a spectrum because the faith itself has got a very wide spectrum. Where it is very tailored is for those who want to strictly follow the path of the faith. Then they are told to restrict the intake of the food with consciousness. Consume the food with a thought process. The reason being is that they give a different value and degree to the food that it can impose on you. Like in Hinduism, they will say it's guna. The guna is an attribute of the food. They say this particular food will make you agitated. This particular food will make you calm. This particular food will put you to sleep. Therefore, look at the value of what the food can provide, and the scriptures has ordained certain kind of food as per se.
The soul doesn't need food to survive. Your body needs the food to survive. And if it is only a question of survival, can you survive on the minimal? We do so much for this 6-inch journey. It's all a matter of taste buds. After you have consumed the food, below this, there's nothing that you can taste.
I think in Singapore context, there are plenty of choices actually,
Not much of a problem.
Correct. Some people will need the masala in their food to make it vegetarian.
Yeah.
Some people will just say, no, it's okay. As far as vegetarian, I can eat.
But I must say that we have actually benefited from all this vegetarian food, because I now learn how to enjoy vegetarian food more than ever. If I go flying, I would actually order vegetarian food for 2 reasons. One is they will serve you first.
Correct. Always, that's the trick. That's the trick.
But the other reason is it actually tastes much better.
Something in the news that has come. Singapore wants to produce 30% of the food locally by 2030 because of land scarcity. There's hydroponics and all that they talk about. What do you think about the lab-grown meat?
Ethically and philosophically, I will avoid it. Because it is still originating from a single cell. Whether you call it a stem cell or whatever it is, to do something. If, let's say, I needed a body part replacement and eventually in future you have to use a stem cell to keep me alive, that would be another ethical question. But as far as for consumption, I would draw the line at lab-based. Plant-based, I'm still okay to a certain extent, but I don't quite like the flavor. Although plant-based is something that right is right, but it actually mimics the wrong. So as far as I would be concerned, I would either not have it or minimize it. Now, if I've gone to a 5-star restaurant or an event and they have prepared a vegetarian meal, but using mock items or plant-based items, then I wouldn't disrespect that, right? Some stricter Jains would probably. It is probably good in Singapore's context to feed the population. That is something that we can't say no to. It's a more of a social community requirement.
I remember in the 1960s or what, there's always a theory that the population growth is going to outgrow all the supplies of food and all that, right? It will be in shortage of plants and all, vegetables and all that. But you see, technology has given us more than what we need. So that is not a doubt. I mean, we will be able to outgrow our population again. But to produce food in the lab, when the time comes, if needs be, probably we have to do that.
It's quite, imagine you flying to Mars, and then you want your meat with you. You can't carry a goat or cow with you.
That is really far thinking,
So I want to bring everybody back to this one idea. Why is there insufficient food? Are there too many more people? Is the population too much that our planet cannot provide? If you look at the amount of wastage to bring 1 kilo of wheat from another country, vegetables looking so pristine and so nice, if we can maybe move towards eating less. You go to buffets and you go to restaurants and there's the amount of wastage you see could feed the rest of the planet without growing a single extra grain.
I've got nothing against it because it is a way that you got to feed the masses, and we want to also be self-dependent, just the way we went about with the water.
Yeah.
So it's a good idea, I think, that we're going towards the lab-grown meat and
We're
hydroponics.
having those multi-story vegetable farms and all that as well, right? With using UV lights and all that type of thing, grow lights and all that to grow on trays rather than using arable land. Which is the way to go, actually.
I learned a lot from how Jane looks at it and the Baha'is look at it. And there's so much that we can talk about. I'm sure a lot of y'all are interested in wanting to know about food. Therefore, please list your questions below. And thank you very much. Bye.
Bye-bye.